Yeah. So how was your week, Karie?
Thanks for asking, Eric. And for those that don't know, I call him Eric, whether he's William Eric or not. He's always going to be Eric to me, right? Just who you
Yes.
are.
Yes, exactly. So how was your week?
This week, this week was one of those weeks where you just want to get through it. You know, you look at that day and you're like, if I get past this obstacle, then it's all downhill from here. And
Yeah,
usually your week looks like that, but this was every day. So I'm happy it's Friday, so to speak.
I tell you. Well, as they say, you're happy on Friday, but I look at it as just one day closer to Monday.
Oh, so I disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I like Mondays though.
you gotta love every day of the week. That's just how I roll.
Yes. Yeah.
So
They
I've
always
known you.
say create a create a life that you don't need a vacation from, right?
There you go. Exactly, exactly. That's a little bit of what you and I are going to talk about today. I mean, I've known you for God knows how many years, and you do a lot of brand consulting. You do a whole bunch of different things. You're a coach. You're a whole bunch of stuff. So tell us a little bit about tell the folks who's listening. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, the best part about business is when you brand yourself, you give yourself permission to organically evolve, change, grow, and keep adding more branches to what you already are. Tree trunk. You're the tree trunk, and the branches get to be who you are, is what I always say. And I started with business consulting, business coaching in 2014. Before that, it was wellness coaching. You can see as a person evolves and grows, so does their business. And I found myself today to be a visibility consultant, not always the easiest thing to say. And I have my own public relations and marketing agency and a public speaking agency. And my ideal clients are public speakers, authors, coaches like Eric, anyone that's putting themselves out there in the service based industry to make a difference on this planet. And those are my ideal peeps. And I enjoy promoting people with purpose. That's literally my tagline. I get to put them in the spotlight.
Nice, nice. So how do you identify that purpose? What if someone is starting their business and they're sort of like floating out there and you're trying to get them out there? How do you work with them to identify that particular purpose?
A lot of the times, most people have it already inside of them. They just need someone to help bring it out. Usually, it's the topic you can't shut up about. And when I started in wellness coaching, when my daughter was little, she was just a baby at the time. I started learning about natural health then, and I was turning my family members off because I wouldn't shut up about it. You know, and that's usually clue number one. Maybe you should turn that into a business. And I did. I did wellness consulting when she was a baby, kind of a stay at home mom side hustle that I did. And sometimes you don't know what it is until someone outside of you is perfect, a coach, mentor, family member. What is it that I seem to bring up about all the time? Like, is it Bitcoin? You know, like now, the cryptocurrency. What is it that you can't shut up about? Turn that into your business, turn that into your passion. Even if it's not a money making strategy, at least have a hobby that just lights you up every day. It'll make a difference in your well being.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The one thing I tell people sometimes is I, I I tell, especially like when I do a lot of speaking engagements to like high school students or like seniors, they always talk about their passion. I said, well, on one side, that's good because you're going to love what you do. But on the other side, sometimes you got to be careful with your passion because that may not make you money. So you have to try to find and
Right.
balance that out. Yeah. So you really got to find and balance
Yes.
that out as to what kind of business you want to be involved in, what kind of business you want to invest yourself into. It's a long haul. It's not easy, but it's a long haul. But as long as you make it fun, um, it's well worth it. So how is this business fun for you? Now we're talking about fun.
Yeah. It is, business should be play, in my opinion. It should be fun. I am an emotional, what kind of a person, as some would say, and my faith is important to me. It's who I am. My work hits those core values often, and if it's not in alignment, I won't work with the client because I do want to feel good because there's my energies going into promoting them too. And if I don't stand behind their product or service, it feels inauthentic for me as well. It kind of falls flat. And I've noticed in the past, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Like, why are we not selling this course? Why is this not happening? Why are we not getting the clicks we need? And I'll look inward and go, it's because I don't believe in what they believe in, or maybe it goes against my core values. I feel like it's shady, or it's not truly got the best interest of the customer or client's heart. So I have to be careful with the alignment piece. If that person generally lines up with truly wanting to make a difference on this planet, it's fun for me. I can't always be the person helping them. I can't always be the author, the speaker, but I can create the ripple effect of getting the right person in front of the person that needs help, the client, the audience, whomever, the reader, whoever that looks like. It gives me that little sense of, yes, I helped do that. And nothing feels more fulfilling than that. That's where the fun comes from, in my opinion, is fulfillment.
Yep. And the client gets a lot out of that as well. They actually see your energy. They actually experience that true partnership. As in coaching, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have that true partnership with the person that you're working with. And because it's a two-way trust street. You know, you have to earn that trust as you earn. I call it earning clients. That's, some people call it different, but I call it, you got to earn that client. And once you earn them, it's that true partnership that I believe in that as well. So yeah, so once you get that client, Karie, once you're like, hey, we're good to go, we're going to work together. What are some of your steps that you gauge and get them through to get them much more visible in the world that they would like to be in?
Well, it's definitely not a cookie cutter process. It's not a one size fits all, which is why I choose to work with people privately. I used to do group programs. It just doesn't work well for me. I found that there's just too much different platforms, too much uniqueness about each client to just lump them together. It just didn't work for me. And maybe I'll change my mind down the road. But I like that go deep with a few versus go broad with a lot, and so on. So, or going really shallow. It's just not who I am. So with me working with that client and just getting really clear on what they love about their business and what platforms they're really, again, it goes back to the fun. What part do they love? I mean, I've had clients that are like, I just want to be on podcasts all day, or I just want, articles written about me. I just want the press release, that press content. Then we just go really fast and deep into that and just take it as far as we can. I never take a client kicking and screaming to the stage if that's not where they want to play. There's other ways to help people. My own father's a perfect example. He's the biggest introvert I know. And I got him on a radio show, which was like pulling teeth. And it took a couple months of convincing, but I was so proud of him that he actually wants to do another one. So, it's like, this is for your best interest. Let's grow into this person that does interviews, like, how that works. It's a comfort zone thing.
Yeah.
And eventually, they get to grow as a person and their business grows with them. But it is a start. I love to start where the client is and then go from there. Never throw them in the deep end if they're not ready.
Yeah, no, you talk about your dad, we're going to get to him in a minute, but that's a great story. We'll talk about dad. Hopefully he doesn't mind, but that's okay. We'll catch him one day. But that's,
yes.
Yeah, definitely. But I definitely appreciate you sort of explaining that a little bit of that process, because that's something that a lot of coaches sometimes miss. You got to meet the client where they are. And sometimes where they are, in many cases, as a coach, you kind of see where they could be or where they should be, which is like sort of like a mile down the road, if you want to use that analogy. But they're only walking like 1 inch a minute and then 2 inches backward. And that's always a challenge. You got to meet them where they are and find the best strategy to sort of push them through and get them through to that mile marker on the road. And then once they see it themselves, it's an amazing, exactly what your dad went through. It was just 1 inch forward when he wrote his book, and now like, get on the show, that's 2 inches backward. Now that he did it, he's like, I'm ready to do another one. So that's the second mile he's on. So that's a great story there. So in terms of you being involved with like your dad and your family, how hard was it to work with family? Because you mentioned this before, that you were a wellness coach and your family was like, listen, you need to just leave us alone. So how was it working with your dad? That's the question I always want to ask you.
I can be a little more, I guess, raw and unfiltered with dad versus a client. I can tell him his work sucks, like there's a whole different kind of dialogue if you could see it in private. Um, I like to remind people that my dad handed me a notebook, a spiral notebook with chicken scratch, literally. That was his book he handed to me. I had to decipher it, type it, try to put it in some type of format that would look and resemble a book within sections, and edit it heavily because he's a guy. No offense to men, but he was just facts. There was no storyline, there was no energy. I had to get the emotion in there. And it is when you're writing, and his hands at the time were having some arthritis issues, so handwriting was even hard for him. But it was the most rewarding experience. I remember going through it and just tears just coming down my face, just couldn't stop crying. Going through his stories, it was almost like I could just feel presence of God in the moment. So it was a very different situation. I work with other family members. My sister, I've done her two sisters now that are in business, a brother-in-law that's in business. I've built their brand and websites, not so much in the faith-based arena. So it was a little more structured, not as emotional, but working with dad was like a gift. I don't know how else to describe it. I felt like it was an honor that I got to do that. And honestly, there was no other daughter that was going to do it. So it had to be me. I stepped up to the plate. But it's a different energy for sure. But it was a blessing. I got a daddy daughter project I'll never forget. And I'm so grateful I got to do that for him and still get to play in that arena.
Exactly. That's a really special project, though, when you think about it. That is a father-daughter relationship there, and you as a daughter got him out into the world by the book that you helped him, that you worked with him on, and it's already published. It's out there. He's been doing interviews. The book's been doing pretty good on sales and all in different places. But your family's in Michigan. Your dad's in Michigan. And I know that's not the only client that you have. You work with clients in many different countries. So what's been some other areas and countries that you've worked with outside of the US that do you see a difference in culture in terms of, goal setting, their vision, the way you brand folks in different cultures? Do you see a difference in that?
I do and I don't. I've worked with people in 11 different countries so far. That's my number, 11, which is a fun one. But there's one place that people shop, and it's the internet. And that doesn't seem to have a nationality. It doesn't have US only. It doesn't have state of Nevada only. It's got a different vibe. It's the person that's entering in the keywords. That's my target. Those are my people. Who's entering how to do such and such and where are they going to land is what we're looking for, because the internet is global. I have seen a difference in nationalities when working with different countries, for example. And I have to remember this. I live in Vegas right now, and people are like, the sky's the limit. It's a different vibe out west than the Midwest area where I grew up. I have to remember that what looks scary for me may look absolutely death, like the worst thing ever, must be the cliff on, the edge of the cliff, kind of death defying motion for another client of mine that lives in a very tiny town where there's literally sheep out, out the window. And you've seen this too, it's like New Zealand or, night and day different environment. And I'm like, go, let's, we can change the whole world. I have to remember the culture they grew up in is more important than the zip code. And I have to remember kind of where they're at now and where they want to be and how much growth, if they're going to take baby steps or leaps, and what's in them to do that, and do they have what it takes to make that situation happen? So it is fun to see the different cultures, the different accents, and all the fun that I've learned from a global business. But overall, I do think it's more the mindset shift is the biggest thing I've noticed, is the mindset. The Americans seem to have, I can get anything I want. I can be anything I want. Some other countries have that. I'm afraid of success. My neighbor will be jealous kind of mindset. It's just very different sometimes. So it depends on the person.
That's interesting. I guess in the end, we're all human. In the end, we just have to, we all have our challenges. We all have our meet us where we are point in life. I would put it that way. And then we just have to find ways to work with other businesses and other individuals to get them down the road. So yeah, I kind of have a similar experience in speaking to different folks from different countries in terms of just listening to their just a slight nuance of maybe just the way something is said, but it's also then you have to really take a step back. So you have to be out of yourself and be in their shoes to some extent to really understand, where they're coming from, or where does that emotion come from. And okay, well, I kind of get it. Now we have to move forward in a different light. Sort of be out of your zone and be in their zone to get them to move in whatever direction they would like to move. So yeah, I definitely hear you on that one. So we're talking about books. We're talking about a whole bunch of stuff. How do you give permission to be you?
Well, I'm getting ready to release my second edition. My first book was called Permission to Be Me, and I felt like I held back a lot, almost contradicting the title itself. So the second book is called Permission to Be All of Me, and that's a capital ALL. No holding back, sharing the good, bad, and the ugly, sharing, and you learn a lot. I mean, my last book was released in 2016. A lot's happened in 5 years. So I feel I owe it to my audience to kind of course correct some things from the first book. I became more aware of my own faith and kind of the direction I was going in. I just want to clarify some things in the second book. But it's not about the title. And I know some people can say, well, we don't care about this girl that's giving herself permission to be herself. Whoop-de-doo-dah. What's that got to do with me? But it's me saying, I'm giving you permission to be all of you also. The brighter I am, the more I give others permission to be bright. Don't worry about being so bright that you're blinding people. I want to step out in leadership by example. And I feel that true leadership starts with walking your talk. So it starts with me. And that's what that book's really about, is getting through. It's very authentic, a lot of stories. That's who I am. I love good, honest feedback. I want you to feel like you're having coffee with the girlfriend and just talking about real life when you read it. I share all my deep, dark, shameful stuff that most people would be ashamed of, but I've already put it to the light and go, this is who I am. If I can love it, you can love it. And that's basically where it starts, is loving all the shadows, not just the bright, shiny stuff.
Why was it important for you to write that book, your first book, and then a follow up to the first book? Why were those two things so important for you in the journey that you're taking?
I was starting to see a pattern with the clients I was coaching at the time, and I'd started business coaching in 2014. Tail end of 2014, I went into business for myself full time. Every client, most were feminine, a very strong feminine energy, a very female presence. And I'd come from such a masculine workspace, I kept seeing these timid women as clients. Of course, they were attracted to me because I was bold. They knew they wanted what I had to offer, but they couldn't find it within themselves to have the confidence to go after it. It was like there was this big chasm. They're on one side of the cliff going, I want this goal, but I don't have the confidence to even go after it, Karie. Like, they wouldn't even take pictures of themselves for branding photos. They would shy away. So I thought, how can I create a solution, something tangible like a book? And it can be a course too, and many people do that as well, that my clients can take it and go, you know what? I can do this. People that look so confident and bold, they've done the work. They didn't wake up that way. And some have to wake up every day, do the work, then become that. It's just a daily ritual, in my opinion anyway. But, and I thought, gosh, if I could just get that help or something in the hands of women to help them better understand themselves, how they do business, and have the confidence to truly stand up and get that goal, whatever it is. It's not just about business, it's about life too. And so I couldn't sleep. It was like one night woke me up, I need to write this book. And I think I wrote the first 6 chapters in that evening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's possible.
Did you handwrite it like your dad, or you just?
Yeah. No one would be able to read that. I'm a horrible physical writer.
So it sounded like the book we used was more of a personal release for others, because you've experienced that. It was more of an example to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and I would like to just say. It was almost like, I don't want to be part of that, but I'm going to show, I'm going to be the example of this is how we could do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though it's got the me in there, it's not even about me at all. It's about the message through me, what I've learned. I feel like life gives you lots of curveballs and obstacles and speed bumps. Take us through what you learned, how you got on the other side to it. And I don't want it to be in vain that I learned so much in this last 13 years that I just keep it to myself. I feel selfish. So that's
Hmm.
my release. I believe in it flowing through you, the learning and the process.
Yeah.
I believe that's the best way to pay it forward.
No, I definitely hear. There's something that you mentioned that I want to pick up on was getting better in the sense of you got to take care of your own mental stuff before we even go out there, before even while we're out there, even now. You still have to, there's a lot of this, we kind of keep stuff under the surface and we never address those things. And I think what you just mentioned was so important because there's every day over time, there's stuff that, we hide, we put away, or we just ignore it. And it'll come back and bite us really hard. And doing that daily work and doing that self-examination, but with others around you, with trusted people around you who are not going to tell you, oh, you're okay, that's okay, you're pretty, you're handsome. Nah, give me the dirty and the ugly. Let's get right to it. And you know in writing that book, did you have that support system around you to say, like what you did to your dad, hey, this book sucks, hey, what were you trying to say here? Could you explain why it was so important to have that support system around you?
I hate to say how self-reliant I am, but but I can be. I mean, I have my share of mentors. I'm very different than the rest of the people in my family. They did all read the first book, and I think a lot of my sisters, I come from a big family. I'm one of 5 kids. I think they read it to see if they were in it, like most curious, like, where she mentioned me. This could be me. She's very vague. um, their feedback was helpful. I'm such a aligned with the Holy Spirit kind of girl that's the voice I choose to listen to over everybody else. So I love feedback, but I'm gonna always match it to that, the divine truth. And in writing that book, and we're still tweaking and editing, there's some parts of it that I just needed to get out there. I don't know how to explain it. It's like it doesn't let you sleep. That's when you have to do something, when it keeps bothering you at night. Not to go off on a tangent, faith-based tangent, but I got sucked into the new age world and it just wasn't at all what I was raised with. I was raised as a pastor's kid in a very fundamental Baptist upbringing. And I wandered a lot. And once I got back on track, I had to create a testimonial video and I put it on YouTube. And then that got so many views. I was like, wait, I'm not even trying to promote that. That was just to cover my butt kind of thing. Like, why are there so many thousands of people watching this? It was almost embarrassing, like that vulnerability hangover you have. Like, what did I do? And then my own dad said, you need to put that story in your next book. And so there's that daddy-daughter situation again, where that accountability, because he is kind of always has been my spiritual mentor, that I'm like, yep, I do, because not everybody's going to see a YouTube video, but they may pick up the next book. Yep. So it's that accountability. It's more spiritual than people around me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely hear you on that one. I mean, having that divine belief is very important. I mean, it's a huge part of my personal life. Having that belief in God and having that spiritual connection. I mean, every day it's a challenge. But there is a God there, and in my belief, there is a God there that guides each of us through the Holy Spirit. And your dad being a pastor, that's an amazing connection there. So it all seems to be coming together. There seems to be a bigger story happening with you, which is quite interesting. Large family, what happened to your dad and how you got him. He got you through stuff, and then you got him through this part. Now you guys are working together. going through, I think that's probably going to be a third book.
Right. No, you're correct in seeing that. You're a typical coach. You've got that outside perspective and you're spotting it. Because even I didn't quite see how the pieces lined up, but it does. There's something in that's why there's such a gap between my two books was I stopped and helped dad publish his. And then I promised myself, okay, I hear you, God. I know I need to do this. And then I'm being obedient by doing it is how I see it. And it just kind of falls into place, in alignment. But it's true. Dad's book made me come back to center. Reading that, it spoke to me spiritually. And now the second book gets to have that extra energy around it of even more raw truth and hopefully change a lot of lives going forward as well.
Yeah. Have you gotten any have you received any sort of like comments about your book, or have you met people that said, hey, I read your book and that led me to you? And do you have any like feedback on how maybe your book has impacted maybe just one person?
I have lots. And sometimes it's when you meet them in person, there's this feeling of, oh, you read my book, like, oh, you read my
Oh,
diary,
you're
like
the
that
one.
weird feeling. No, it was you.
That's right.
It is because I share so much, like how I really feel about even my body parts. I go deep. I don't hold anything back,
Right.
just that simple insecurities from a young age all the way to adulthood. So when someone says, I've read your book, you do kind of feel vulnerable, almost naked in that moment. Like they did read your diary because there's so much in there that's basically from a diary. So it is interesting. I think we're hardest on ourselves, especially me, when I immediately think, oh, here comes the criticism. Like you pause, you're like, oh, here it comes. And instead they're like, and everybody's different. They each get something different out of it. A lot of people that are empathic like me are like, thank you for waking me up that I'm an empath too. That one's a
Mhm.
big one. I get that common denominator a lot. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought maybe something was off. Why am I different? Why do I feel this stuff? Why am I so impacted by energy, and people? So that one's a big one. That one, in fact, I have a group of over 400 women just from that kind of category alone in a private Facebook group that I consult with, coach with, support. So it's different for each person. Everyone's going to take something different, and sometimes it's just surprising. You're like, really? I don't even remember writing that part, but it hit home with them. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And I've even gotten, this is the fun part, Eric, and you need to write your own book. Hint, hint. But
Here we go.
here
Here we go.
it
Hey,
comes.
hey, hey, this is my interview. Calm down.
Right. But there's this, when someone says, so and so gave me your book. So when it's got like a second generation to hand to hand to hand, that's when it's even more fun. You're like, oh, and you trace it back to, oh yeah, I know her. I met her at a conference, and she's the one that lent me your book. And so I get those feedbacks. It's been 5 years, so it's kind of fun to see the life of the book all beat up, getting passed around. It just gets to live on forever. It's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story, especially when you kind of put yourself out there and you have other people connecting with you in ways that you really couldn't before. So in some ways, it's you know we have the internet, we have all the social media, we have very quick ways of connecting with people and communicating with people or each other on a global level now. But it's good to hear that we can still connect on the deeper level through all this communication protocols that we have now. I think to me that's very important. I mean, it's easy just to send a tweet or a text or a Facebook message, but those are just words. It's always a feel good story when you say, hey, we actually connected, we actually have a deeper connection, and that goes to another level in terms of the next step. So that to me is a success story. It also, another perspective on that was I think it was Elon Musk who mentioned that he put himself out there as well, but I think it was for a different reason. It was more for sort of like to diffuse attack vectors. I think that's what he called it. So he put himself out there, so people can't say, well, it's kind of like an ad hominem circumstance where people say, oh, you have this, you're a rich guy. And he was like, well, I'm not rich, I only make this amount. So he sort of changed and rearranged parts of his life to reduce attack vectors. And that's the other side. That's another side of that story in terms of putting yourself out there and being vulnerable, from another perspective. What do you, how do you interpret that from the experience that you have and what you just shared?
I think someone like Elon gets the right to do that. For one, I'm going to shrink myself because I'm so
Yeah,
big.
yeah,
It's kind of what it feels like. It has that energy, which actually feels better
yeah,
than putting yourself out there. It's the opposite reaction.
yeah,
When I first started my business, I had that, oh man, we're going to launch a website. I'm putting myself out there with interviews, podcasts, fun things like that. And I remember the first email I got through like Facebook Messenger, because when you put yourself out there, you also give yourself so much permission to get feedback from every platform. And I think it was a guy that just said, do you have an ebook I can download? Simple question, right? But not when you feel like I'm still getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready. That was the space I was in.
yeah,
I'm not ready. And this is why I'm not ready, because I'm not ready. And I was just, all the shame came over me.
yeah.
And I felt like, and I use this description often, felt like I would open the shower door and didn't have a towel. You know, you're like coming out of the shower and I'm just naked and bare. And the whole world can see me. You know, it was just like, oh. And I wanted to shrink like Elon did.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to go into my shell and stay there forever. But you can't help people from a shell. You can't help people from a closet with the door locked. You cannot stay hidden. And the easiest way to get around that energy is to remember, again, like I've said before, it's not about you. It's about the message flowing through you. Take yourself out of the equation. Even fear and public speaking. I had to go, Karie, nobody cares about your shoes. Nobody cares about which dress you bought. Nobody cares if your hair looks right.
Except Karie.
Except for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're going to care about how you made them feel. Did they take away some tangible tools they can use? Did they feel your energy? Did they feel that you were authentic? Was the story real? Did it hit them in the heart? Are they going to make a shift now because I chose to get out of my own way today? That's really all that matters. And it is, again, it's a divine thing. It's about the message.
Yeah.
You know, my own father was just so introverted when he first started his ministry that it had to take, and I'm bringing dad into this again because, you know, he won't let anyone interview him, so I'll have to bring the stories in. But he was like, nope, not doing it. But at age, I believe he was 23, newlywed to my mom, who was only 19 at the time. They got in a horrible car accident where he almost lost my mom, and his mom was in the back seat. And it was one of those aha moments of, okay, God, I think you were trying to get my attention, you know. And just to go a little deeper, my mom went through the windshield and almost cut her jugular veins on both sides. And his mom hit I believe the rear view mirror, had some internal injury, had to have her pancreas removed, a few other situations, just a lot. I want to say pancreas. I'm trying to remember if it's gallbladder or pancreas, one of the two, some organ removed. I don't want to be misquoted. My dad pushed the steering wheel into the car, had glass all over him, broken ribs. And he just remembers wandering around the hospital after the ambulance had taken everybody away, thinking, where's my wife? Where's my mom? And he finally, everybody's asking him, why? What are you doing? Can we help you, sir? Are you okay? You need to sit down. And he finally went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror and saw the cut, saw the blood, saw the glass still in his hair. And it hit him in that moment, and got on his knees and said, okay, God, I'm getting out of my own way, and I'll do whatever you ask of me. And literally 2 days later, a Sunday school teacher at the church asked him to take over the men's Sunday school class. And his answer was yes. I don't know what I'm doing, but I will figure it out. You know, sometimes it takes us to get to that moment of, what the heck? You know, like, what am I doing wrong? I'm going in the wrong direction, 100 miles an hour. And sometimes we have to hit the brick wall for us to go, okay, and surrender and head to the direction we're supposed to go. So don't get to the brick wall. Don't get to the car accident is what I'm trying to say. Just learn to get out of your own way first, you know, and get that insecurity squashed. The sooner the better.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful story. I'm hoping your dad will come one day and share that story. Maybe not with me, but with someone else, hopefully in Michigan somewhere. you can definitely share that story, because there's a lot there in that story. You know, especially in this book, we won't give away exactly what happened. We'll keep that for the people who purchases this book. But there's a lot there. I mean, we keep going back to that personal hurdle, where we kind of, we're running in a straight line. There's a hurdle, and there's that little voice in our head that says, nah, I don't, you know, can I go around it? You can't go around it. You got to jump over that hurdle. And those are things that, you know, I deal with every day. I'll be honest, every day we deal with things like that. Very simple things. So, you know, making those very simple choices that we know will make a huge improvement in what we do a year down the road. So those are things that are so important. Like you know, you talk about your dad, but now what about you? What about you? You have who is your role with your dad for you?
Meaning, what happened to me? What accident did I get into?
No,
No.
no, like your dad has you. That's your role with your
Yes.
dad. Now, who is the Karie? You're playing your dad now, so who's the Karie in your life that's has that connection for you?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I hate to say my mom, but in some ways I believe it is. I mean, I'm the type of person that keeps my circle small. My
Mm-hmm.
inner circle's tiny. My daughter, my mom, you know, and ironically, we're 30 years apart on both sides, you know, that generation skip. Mom is my go-to to dump everything, the ugly dumps, you know, the ugly cries, the everything. This is what happened. I don't know what I was thinking. And I dump a lot of that on her. My mom's very gifted at being a non-judgmental listener. You know, she just absorbs and can be that sounding board, because sometimes when you just say it out loud, you hear the answer already in your voice, in your speech. You found that solution. My daughter, ironically, is my mirror. It's just being a single mom for all these years. When she says stuff, you're like, crap, I know those are my words. I can't even say anything. You know, like I've coached her to do that and act the same way.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids, and I know anyone that's has children, don't you feel like the voice of God goes through them at times? You're like, wow, you are way wiser beyond your years. Where did this wisdom come from? And it's what you needed to hear in that moment, and it just stops you. You can't even get mad at them. It's like, oh, you're right. You know, because they're watching you. She's 17 now, and she's just been a single mom since she was 4. So all these years of just being that sounding board, she's your little mirror of actions. Those are the two strong females in my life. I have lots of strong females in my life, sisters, great girlfriends, great friends that are also business owners, aunts. Oh my gosh, there's a ton of aunts that are strong females. My grandma was both grandparents, grandmothers, I should say. Beautiful pillars of light, strong. So those examples around my life have just kind of remind me of, I can do this too. Grandma did it, I can do it. You know, look
Yeah.
what she faced and went through.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that around you. Strong pillars of example, leadership, what it's like to, it's okay to be a strong lady, you know, because in a female world, it's, you know, it's almost looked down upon. If you're too loud, too boastful, too proud, shut up and have your seat. You know, you don't want that. But I'm also not you know, a feminist screamer from the rooftops kind of girl either. So we all have our place. But yeah, strong mentors, strong examples, especially in your family, is a powerful space. So I didn't realize that until you brought it up, just who I rely on or where I pull strength from.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I mean, as a coach and in the business that you do, you know, you're getting people out there. You know, you bring that to the table to your clients as well, and that's so important. Even though, and we're all human, you know, none of us are perfect by any means. We're perfectly imperfect, the way I look at it. And bringing that to your client is so important because you're doing the work. And that's something that your clients can feel and appreciate, in terms of saying, hey, you know what, there is a lot of authenticity there. There is that connection there. And that's something that, you know, your clients will definitely appreciate. And that's, you know, as you know, our coaches, that's something that they definitely see as well. You know, they look for your progress. You know, they look for that walk that you're going to take. Are you putting yourself out there? It's like what you said about your book. You know, we're not perfect. None of us are. However, at this, you know, in the same token, what are we doing? You know, are we doing a podcast? Are we writing a book? Are we doing public speaking? Are we doing those things to expose ourselves in that way, in terms of vulnerability? And sometimes it takes long. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you need to have the right person to ask you those hard questions. And no, I definitely appreciate you sharing that, because it's so important for a lot of folks who are going either in business, going into business, or expanding their business, to really look at it in that perspective. It's like, wow, I'm going to expand, I'm going to grow my company. Well, that's a different level of vulnerability. That's a different level of exposure that we have to deal with. And that's where that hurdle comes up, and you're like, I don't want to, I'm gonna back up. I don't want to do that for whatever reason. There's a multitude of reasons. So we definitely have to be aware of that, as well as coaches, and what the jobs that we do. So in terms of speaking engagements, like what are some of, like, for your clients, what are some of the speaking roles that you've connected them with, or what you could connect them with? What are some of the, like, do you do TEDx? Do you do YouTube? Do you do, City Hall speaking? Like, where do you align your clients? Where do you get them to go out in there and share their voice and their story?
Well, the key that you said, the key word in there is align. I'm not going to put someone that hates the corporate world into a corporate speaking gig, or has never worked in the corporate world. I shouldn't say hate, more or less, maybe someone who's been a stay at home mom most of her life, and she's just now starting her business, but has never worked in corporate. It's like going to be more challenging for her to speak to that audience authentically, from a space of I've been where you are. That's what I look for. Again, the genuine character, authenticity kind of alignment when working with clients. Um, I do like to change things up and put a male speaker at a women's only conference, because they do hire men. Usually that speaker panel looks a little feminine, but then there's like a couple dudes in there, and it's all good. It mixes things up to have that male energy in there. It's a little harder to get them in front of them, of course, but it works. It's fun. It's had great success. Usually that's the standing room only kind of conference. This past year, we worked through again, you speak of hurdles, there was lots of those in the speaking industry. Live events went to 100% virtual overnight, and it was such a shock for my speaking clients. But the beauty of being an entrepreneur is learning to navigate through any kind of crazy maze that life offers you or throws at you, literally. And the quicker you can course correct, the faster you're going to get to the result. And with us, it was just, okay, now you need to prove yourself on camera. This is different. Do you have good internet connection? Can you speak? You're not going to have the same energy of the audience. You can't hear them clapping. You can't hear them laughing. It was very different. A lot of my clients went into a dark place for a little while. I mean, as most of the planet did, but it was just, I thrive on that energy. That's my identity. I can't do this. The feedback I was getting was, I'm used to being on a plane 24/7. Guess what? Life stopped, and you now have to look at your husband a little more, like, it's okay. You can't run away from your marriage. Is it going to get better or worse? Like, this was a life challenge for a lot of us. And I had to learn too, multiple streams of income in place in business, can't rely only on speaking, just, I'm grateful I didn't have all my eggs in one basket, that I have the two separate agencies, and it was a learning curve for me too. And I'm grateful for it. It made us stronger going forward. Now we know how to do both, in case of anything. Now we can offer, I do virtual talks and in-person talks. My clients, if anything, look more robust and better than ever. So I just see it as, take everything with a grain of salt, and what can I learn in this lesson? So overall, I love to align them with who they are. I have relationship coaches, I have life coaches, I have authors, I have, a lot of it's around the mindset piece. I have some that work with only the brain science of your,
Mhm.
your actual
Yeah.
brain and how it works and functions. I've got such a wide variety of clients. So it isn't something like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It truly needs to be in alignment 100% in order to get the gig, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just has to make a fit. So I have to keep a lot of variety out there when it comes to speaking leads, because you just never know which one's going to be a perfect fit. It's kind of a game. It's a game of concentration. We got to match them up, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're kind of like the how would I put it? The the matchmaker for speakers, I would say. That's kind of what it sounds like
Yeah,
in a way.
I am. I
Yeah.
didn't think of that. Hmm.
That's kind of cool.
Maybe we need to change the name to something.
You're welcome.
I know.
That's pretty
Speaker
cool.
matchmaker.
Speaker matchmaker. There you go. That's kind of cool. Has a nice ring to it, by the way. So, and again,
It's true. It's exactly that.
yeah, I think that's how I kind of envision it when you talk about it. That's the image that came to my mind. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. You're a speaker matchmaker, huh? Okay, all right, we'll play with that.
eHarmony for speakers.
There you, there you go. There it is. That's why you're good at the marketing.
Yeah.
But the advantage now, in terms of, yeah, we all have the pandemic year really exposed a lot of opportunities, in my opinion, a lot of opportunities in terms of having businesses shift. Last year, I worked with just countless of businesses on webinars and one-on-one, and some of them were just like, really just like, whoa, what's going on? I said, okay, take a deep breath. Let's go back to basics. It's so important. That's exactly what you're talking about is, now that you went back to basics, you can actually have speaking engagements globally while you're home. That's the advantage of it now. When in the past, like pre-COVID, I've had a few clients that I try to shift to do this, to coach this way for a lot of different reasons. And, traffic, and, you spend for an hour coaching, you spend 3 hours just for that one client, and you only work with them for an hour. So the efficiencies wasn't really there. And some of the clients were like, no, I like it face to face. And I'm like, well, for your business, you should be virtual because you just never know. And then COVID hit, then the pandemic hit. And there it was. A lot of businesses had to immediately shift into, well, how do we redesign what we already do? How do we change our delivery services? And, yeah, you're right. The speaking circuit just went to zero, right? But once things started opening up, I won't even say opening up. I think once the creativity juices started hitting, like what you were talking about, hey, we can still do this, but we can just be at home now. And you can actually have a client in a different country. You can actually speak in a different time zone. And that actually opened up the market to a lot of individuals and a lot of different types of businesses. So have you seen that occur even now, more and more with a lot of your clients that you're working with?
I had a client this past month was able to fly to 2 live events and do 3 virtual talks. So she was able to do all within a week. So the fact that she could, physically get on a plane, change time zones, she was actually able to, and she got paid for all of them. So think of the possibility. I don't have to leave my house for 3 of these events. I don't have to worry about time zones. I don't have to worry about flights. I don't have to worry about layovers, missed flights, delays, all the chaos that happens from getting on a plane and the risk. And I can just do the 2, which filled her up. She got her audience fill, that she just loves and thrives on, but also was able to recuperate more income because she could stay home for those other 3. So again, it's that broadening of opportunity. Like you mentioned, you hit it perfectly. Hi, how can I make the most out of this situation? I personally don't like to get on a plane or be away from my daughter. She's older now, so it's not as much of an excuse. She's kind of pretty self-reliant, drives and does all her own stuff. But she's still my excuse to stay home when I need to. But I love the opportunity. I've seen clients speaking in Russia. They're speaking globally, like you mentioned also, in events they probably wouldn't even go to or didn't have a passport renewed for. Think of the convenience side of it all and the exposure on top of it. So it's been a win-win, but it takes, like you said, it takes some time for people to go, wait, there's still opportunity here. And it took,
Yeah.
those corporations had to go, wait, we need some type of software, like how can we manage this? It was just getting those techie details in place.
Yeah.
And it just like we started to pick back up again. It was
Yeah.
beautiful to see.
Yep.
It's been an adjustment, but we've done it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty, I think, of having or having that experience of getting shut down and then really sitting down and rethinking and relearning, actually unlearning and then relearning
Yeah.
just the one thing that you do in your business, and sort of looking at creative ways of expanding or getting rid of something that just wasn't, that sort of took a lot of energy but just didn't have much return, and did not just the money part but in other ways, in that personal return, that mental health, that physical health. All those things are part of being a business owner, and that to me was a beautiful thing. I remember um, it was in December, I think it was 2018. Yeah, this right before the pandemic hit. In December, buddy of mine called me and said, "Hey, he was monitoring certain things overseas, and he was just like, hey, keep an eye on this. This is coming." So I started, looking at the news overseas and saying, "Oh boy, this could impact. This could have a huge. This has a risk of, or the potential of a huge impact." And I was doing a lot of webinars that year, in 2020. And a lot of our webinars, well, not webinars, but they were face-to-face. They were actually workshops and seminars, put it that way. They were all lined up. Once a week, we go to the location. We had 20, 30 people, per session. And March 15th, we shut down. The webinars were already, I'm sorry, the workshops and seminars were already, marketed. And the person who was organizing those particular seminars, we got in a call right away. She called me right away and she was like, "What do we do?" And we talked it over. I said, "Hey, we got Zoom. Don't change the date. Don't change the time. Just send everyone a Zoom link. We're going to push through." And she just jumped all over it. She was like, "Yes, let's do it that way." We didn't miss a beat. And what we talked about, we changed the topics of the webinars. From workshops, we did webinars, and we changed the topics into more like, how do you shift? How do you address what's happening right now? And exactly what you're sharing is one of the things that we talked about almost the entire year, was looking at the basics, get back to basics, look at what's going on. So this year, it's more like do more of the same and keep, looking and sort of like looking back and saying, what else can I do? Not just in case we get another shutdown, what else can I do and who else can I help? And we talk about that network. We talk about the family network. We talk about that support network. But during the pandemic, how has your own network, your professional network, what role did they play in your company? What role did they play in helping you, maintain the level that you've always played at?
Well, it's kind of interesting. A lot of people were bored during the pandemic, and I was the opposite. My clients were now had more time on their hands to be creative. I want to write that next book, Karie. I want to do a program. We're going to do a series of Facebook Lives and help people across the world get through this together. And while others were binging Netflix, I'm again grateful I had the other pieces and components to my business, because all of a sudden that accelerated and I felt like I was working 12-hour days plus, it was just nonstop. Grateful, but I was like, what just happened? But I realized again, my clients, most of them were grounded, literally grounded in their moment. Time out. It's time to rethink this. And I love that I work with thought leaders again, the open mindset type of coaches, those that have thought to be creative, they're entrepreneurs. These aren't people that are like, oh, the world's coming to an end, poor me, victim mindset people. I'm blessed to only get those type of people that go, you know what, this is the situation, what can we do next? What else is possible? And they're asking the right questions to explore that type of new opportunity. So if anything, I was busier than ever. We all kept each other afloat. My client calls looked a little different. It was a check-in, like how you doing mentally
Hey,
before we ever got to business. How are you doing? Who's your support group? Please tell me you're not drinking wine every day. Like, yeah, we would joke about like all the recyclables on the neighborhood street. They're just nothing but alcohol bottles these days on garbage day. It was just kind of a joke, but because it's so important. That's when you really know your core. When life throws this crazy chaos at you, that's when you go, you know what? My coping mechanisms are a little different. I'm gonna have to shift some things. I can't go shopping. I can't socialize and go eat out with my friends. What can I do? What does bring me joy? I had to shift my own work-life balance, like maybe I'll do a puzzle. I haven't done one in 100 years. I've always said I wanted to do one. And it's like a form of meditation. I'd listen to a podcast and doing puzzles. It was good. It was good. It was like getting information and coming to a Zen space at the same time.
yeah,
So I'm grateful I work in the environment I do with the people I do. We kept each other accountable, and again, back to that checking in. I'd had some clients that live in Canada that had even stricter laws than we have here in the US.
mhm,
They were really struggling. So a lot of it was different. It was a lot of mental health stuff, getting in that space. Because we knew when you're a leader, you don't get to take a day off. You
right.
you actually hold yourself, that leadership position will hold you accountable because
Mhm.
people are watching. So if anything, it made me excel. Like, you know what? We don't have any time for this poor me situation. I've got to lead by example again,
Yeah, yeah,
over and over again, even through situations like a pandemic. It's funny how you just step into action.
yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It's so important that having that network, that inner network is so important. And then you have like your different tiers of your professional network, which it's a different relationship, but it's still meaningful in that sense. And that's something that I experienced as well. I'm glad you shared it that way because it was so important just to say, "Hey, how you doing?" Just a simple text. "Hey, you got a few minutes to make a call? How you doing?" You know,
Right. Right.
something as simple as that. Even clients that I worked with, I had a few clients in the food industry, and in January, February, we were planning for the year, and March they shut down. April, some of them were literally out of business. I have to admit, some of them were like, "Hey, we decided to shut
Yeah.
down because we don't see an end to this. We don't see, and
Yeah.
because of different things, they just could not." And those are a lot of clients in the food industry, restaurants and 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 businesses that serve the restaurants, and it was heartbreaking. But you still keep in
Mhm.
touch with each other. I think that's very important. Not just for, it's not a business thing. It's just a very personal thing because you create those relationships with the folks around you, and to be honest, you kind of find out who's working with you.
Yes.
That's also the good thing. You really, I'm sure you have as well. You found out, oh yeah, I can definitely work with this person, or this person, is really authentic in that regard. So uh, during the times of stress, our true nature comes out. It's revealing. So that's something that I learned the hard way, the hard way. But it's a life lesson. You just have to pick it up and just keep moving forward. That's all you have to do. Keep moving forward. So if you Karie, with all your amazing experience in the business that you do and getting people out there and coaching, and you still do wellness coaching once in a while. I'm sure you do with some of your clients. What
Yes. That information never goes away.
it can't. It just can't. It's just part of you.
No.
What would
Yeah.
be if someone, I'm going to ask you, if what would be, maybe, let's say, the top two or three things that Karie would share with the viewers and the listeners? What would you say in terms of here are top 3 things you should do if you really want to get yourself out there, because that's what you do. But what would you, how would you prepare
Mhm.
that person? What would be your top 3 things that you would want to share?
It kind of depends on, again, the message and the person, but the 3 things I would give them first and foremost, if you're going to play on the internet and you're going to try to reach as many people as you can, you've got to get super comfortable with the camera. You've got to be comfortable with video. You've got to be comfortable there. The only way to bridge the gap is, obviously meeting in person is the luxury of all luxuries, but
Mm,
you're not going to have that. Someone in Bangladesh, I'm just throwing countries out there. But the video piece, when people watch my video blogs, and could be a situation that comes up, people assume they know you already. They just come in and they just, even though I only have maybe a profile picture and that's it to go by in social media, and they want to meet you for coffee when they're in Vegas next, and they just love you, and you're like, who are you? You're like trying to find anything on them, and it feels like a stranger, because they are coming at you and they want your personal space. Well, I look at it 2 ways. One, the video works. I'm sharing enough about myself where they truly feel like they know me. And secondly, that's what we want, right? Isn't that what the whole goal is? So I can't push them away. I actually achieve the process, score, check mark. But you've got to get comfortable with that. And it isn't easy. When I first started in digital media with a startup company, I helped create back in 2009, summer of 2009. I was that girl staring at the camera, trying to read a teleprompter, looked like, a news anchor robot. So, it's like it takes work, but you got to
yeah.
start somewhere. It's just be you, be authentic. So video is the number one spot I'm always going to suggest. And you can use YouTube, Instagram, Rumble, whatever makes you happy, Instagram Live, Facebook Live. Just pick your poison, basically, just your platform is your place to play. Think of it as a playground. What's the app on your phone you go to first? That's the place you should play. Never assume, this is the second tip I'll give,
Mhm.
never assume that you have to be everywhere. Yes, it helps
Yeah.
because your ideal client might be a Twitter follower and you're over here on LinkedIn and you miss them all the time. You're missing them constantly. So be consistent on your platforms if you choose to play there, but find the one you'd like to play to. Where's the one I first log into every morning with your coffee? And that's the space you need to play in. Really maximize that presence. Some of my clients just love Instagram. It's their favorite thing in the whole wide world. Instagram is its own animal. It has its own unique stuff. It has a lot of bells and whistles, and it has a lot of cons too. There's not just pros, there's a lot of cons too. But learn it, master it, get the followers there, watch other influencers, and just go all the way to the finish line with it. Go all in wherever you choose to play. The third tip is lots of professional photos. You can't have enough. I'm not talking about, I'm a selfie girl. No one's ever taken a picture of me. That's why I was thinking of this the other day, and I'm just going to be real here. Small rant. I was like, I'm the one that takes all the pictures when the family's together. I'm taking recordings, and they're so happy I do because they all want a copy of it later. Like, can you send that video to me? Yes, you're welcome. It's like, but I look like the selfie queen because I'm the only one that's got my camera out, my phone, because I love to capture memories because I like to revisit them. It's all about me. It's not even about the social media. It's just, I want to go back and see my highlights on Instagram and go, my family, oh, that boat ride we did, and all the, it's that homesickness, kind of eases a little bit when I get to do that. But get the selfies out there, get the stories out there, take lots of pictures, get professional ones done for your true marketing, like your website or anything that's got needs a high resolution photo. But don't be afraid of your face. That's what connects us. That's your logo. That's who you are in a personal brand. It's this space. That's the eye contact, the smile. Humans can't connect to a hand or your back or your feet. It's not, there's no human connection. So the faster you can bridge the gap and get that human know, like, and trust factor, the quicker you're going to get them to buy your book, buy your course, hire you for your services, hire you for your speaking. You got to be able to be a human in that space and then utilize all those beautiful factors we have out there that have brought us together globally. Got it, Eric?
I think so. I got it. Yes.
Just teasing.
No, you're not.
You're a good student. You're excellent.
Hey, my personal hurdles, this is one of them, ladies and gentlemen. But
And it's most, so it's okay.
yeah,
You're not alone.
yeah, that's definitely true. But this was fun. Thank you, Karie, for coming on. And are you? I'm sure you have you can probably take on a few more clients. So for all the people watching and listening, I wonder how do they get in touch with you? How do they reach you? And tell us the title of your book, your first book, so you can go to Amazon and purchase your book.
Yes, you can reach me at kariemillspaugh.com. I have a free consult or just a contact me area if you just want to reach out, ask a question. I do free consultations. I like to dive deep into where you're at now and at least give you somewhat of a loose game plan. Even if you don't hire me, at least you have some direction of where to go. That's what you get and obtain with a consultation with me. My book is on Amazon. My first one is called Permission to Be Me. The second one has a wait list already because it's not been released yet. It's called Permission to Be All of Me, but it's already listed on my website at kariemillspaugh.com, right in the tab book, super easy to find. And get on the wait list at least so you can, if it depends on when you're viewing this, it might be already ready. In that case, just click buttons from that space forward. But that's the easiest way to connect with me. I'm on all social media platforms, first and last name as well. So at this stage in my life with this business, if you can't find me, then I'm not doing my job. So just Google.
Or DuckDuckGo, as they say.
Right. Yes. Let's put all the platforms out there.
Put them all out there. You can be found on any of them.
Yes.
But Karie, I want to say thank you. This was fun. I definitely appreciate having you on, and I just look forward to, let's say, I guess when your second book comes out, and we'll definitely do another interview, a podcast with you, and we'll talk about the second book and talk about a little bit more about how the second book impacted a few people. I would love to hear some of those stories. That'd be good. So Karie, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Had so much fun. Thank you, Eric.
Take care. Bye, folks.